sponsors. I'm going to give a shout-out to them a little bit later on. I am your native son, broadcasting from the jewel cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier City. And I want to welcome aboard all of our friends in southern Arkansas and East Texas. Joining us now is another native son, and that is the Commissioner of Administration of our governor, John Bell Edwards. Jay Darton, who is a regular on the show. I want to welcome you back to the show. Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner.
Thanks, Jill.
You know, Jay, I was so proud of, and we can put aside all of our political differences and everything else, because it seems a very strange human thing. It's almost American. It's definitely an American thing. We pull together when we face crisis. We're in a crisis here in Louisiana as far as people attacking our law enforcement officers, and I really love the way the governor is handling this. I love the way Colonel Webminson is handling this, and all of the administration is really doing a stellar job in stepping up and confronting this in a no-nonsense way. Jay, how are we coming along as far as the keeping Baton Rouge, the lid on Baton Rouge? Does it seem calm right now?
Well, it does, CL. It seems calm and appropriately mourning. I think the whole city is mourning for what's happened. It's obviously a terrible tragedy. The governor spoke to it, I thought, very eloquently this morning and yesterday since it happened. But I do think the lid is on the city. The shooter was not from here. We have not had violent acts since the Sterling shooting. The relatively small number of arrests that are made, many are not going to be prosecuted, and they were based upon obstruction of a public highway. There were no real acts of violence that have precipitated in Baton Rouge since the initial shooting. And unfortunately, this guy comes in from out of town and does these despicable things, and we're having to deal with the aftermath. You just feel for the families, and you see these three officers, all family men, all in the prime of their lives with small children, and it's just a very, very sad day, and it's really an indictment on, unfortunately, on where we are in society right now.
Absolutely, it is, and as you may know, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and I, we have no love lost for each other. But Jay, I got to tell you, and this is me saying this, folks. It's not Jay Darton saying this. When they came to town, I knew that there was going to be something crazy that happened. We'll move on from that. There was a post that Montrell Jackson, Officer Montrell Jackson, who lost his life, made on his Facebook page, and it was very poignant in a way that
the exact word I was thinking. It was poignant. That's exactly what it was. But go ahead.
It really was. But I wanted to get your we're going to have to do something about the way officers, not just Montrell Jackson being a black officer, but police officers feel about the way the community is viewing them. I remember the Dallas police chief saying, "Hey, we don't feel appreciated most days." What can we do? And what does the governor have? What does he have in mind to make police community relations stronger? You got to do it.
Well, it's an often used expression, but I think you're going to see a real dialogue about this. The governor's already called for that, and I know that the governor is going to be triggering these type of discussions in the Baton Rouge area in particular, involving the ministerial community and the community as a whole, as well as those involved in law enforcement. There has to be discussion. There has to be candid discussions about race and about the way that those, particularly those young black men in the community, feel about police officers, and we've got to change that mindset. And there's a lot that's been done already, reaching out to try and show that police officers are human beings too, and they have emotions, they have feelings, they have concerns. And I think you're going to see that increasing even more. What Officer Jackson wrote, it was almost particularly sad to read it now in the context that it was almost a goodbye message he was issuing. That he was concerned. He didn't feel appreciated, and you heard the police chief in Baton Rouge on more than one occasion talk about the fact that his officers are scared, and they're scared too. They're walking, as has been said, into danger, not running away from danger, and that's exactly what they did in the context. If you heard today the explanation of exactly the diagram of what happened, and particularly Deputy Garafola, who was in a position of cover, looking for the shooter, and when he saw the police officer down, he was running to him to provide assistance when he was then gunned down.
And it was amazing to watch the footage there in Dallas of everybody running away and the police officers running in. And when we think about our Baton Rouge officers, our officers all around Louisiana, every one of them, that is what they do, folks. But you know what, Jay? America right now seems to be in the grip of not only focusing a lot of angst on our police officers, there's a lot of angst focused on America. America haters seem to be cropping up, and there are young people that are don't understand what we are about. But this guy had to come in from Kansas City to Louisiana to bring that type of thing in. Is that possible that we can have some type of education? I'd like to be a part of the planning of this. I'd certainly love for you to get in touch with me. I'd like to be a part of this because I think the fourth grade, third grade, that type of thing is where we're going to have to start with these kids understanding who police officers are. What do you say to that?
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be part of what takes place. And then you remember, this is not a guy from here. This is not a Louisianian, as you said. This is a guy who came here for the express purpose of doing what he did. So he wasn't one of us. And the analogy you think of when we're talking about police running toward danger, you think about 9/11, and we all remembered EMTs and firemen and police all running to danger, to those buildings before they fell, while everyone else was fleeing in horror. And this is an analogy that takes place every day, where our law enforcement personnel, our first responders, our firemen, firewomen run to danger toward it. And that's what happened here. And these officers, in the heat of the moment, did exactly what they were trained to do. And they were protecting all of us. And we have to remember that every day, that they're protecting all of us. And it's just, we can do a lot better than this, obviously, as a society, and we can do a lot better than this as Louisianians. And obviously the situation involving officer-involved shootings are going to play out as they should, with reviews and with processes that will take place to determine if there's any culpability by officers who are alleged to have done wrong. But there's no way to justify this kind of violence in the wake of that, and it's got to stop. And the good news is we're all calling about it stopping. And I did not attend the Alton Sterling funeral, but by all reports, it was a calm, peaceful, beautiful funeral for this gentleman.
Yeah.
And there was no call to arms. There was nobody suggesting that there should be violent repercussions.
Stay with me. Stay with me through the break. Commissioner of Administration, I have on with me Jay Darden. We're going to be back. Jay, I need you for about 3 or 4 more minutes. Can you hang with me?
Sure.
Thank you. We'll be back with Commissioner of Administration for our governor, Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards. Jay Darden when I return. I'm CO. CL. Back with you on this Monday evening in the jewel cities of the Arklatex, and it appears that a crisis has happened. It is uniting us that has happened here in this great state of ours, the great state of Louisiana. And joining me is one of our public servants, Jay Darden, on the phone. Jay, I just want you to reassure the audience here in these couple of minutes that we have left with you that the governor does, in fact, have a plan and a message for us to unite here in this country, in our state rather, because it does seem that there are forces that would like to blow us apart and rip Louisiana and the rest of the country apart. Reassure us of how our governor is going to try and unite us.
Well, first of all, I think he's done a tremendous job in the wake of this shooting. He's been on the ground, hands-on, and meeting with families and talking with people and reassuring everybody that this city and this state is safe and is going to stay that way. And he's already talked about where we go from here and what he can do to help lead discussions. And I think you'll see that take place in the wake of this terrible tragedy and everything that's happened over the course of the past 2 weeks. And you'll see the governor front and center talking about and prompting communication and people talking to one another, blacks and whites, sitting down and talking about what's happening right now in society and what we can do to try and change the perception or the misperception, whichever it is, in particular in the black community toward police officers. And that's a discussion that's got to take place. And this has unfortunately brought this all to a head. And if you read and you have a chance to see what the slain officer wrote on his Facebook page just a couple of days before this tragedy, to use the word again, poignant, how poignant it was and what an apt description it was from a black police officer about the way he felt about his job and his love for the city, his love for the job, and his reaching out, trying to be a person who helped bring people together and stop all of what we're experiencing right now. And it was certainly an appropriate. It's going to wind up, unfortunately, being a eulogy for him as to what his message was to the people of this city.
That is so true. And you know, finally, Commissioner Darden, when we think about the meat of what he was trying to tell us, he was trying to tell us that he wanted to serve. He wanted to love the people that he was serving. But so many times he felt unloved and underappreciated himself. That is something we can all put in our jaw, as grandma, in our pipe, as grandma used to say, and smoke it. But listen, let me tell you, thank you so much for everything that you all are doing, and the front. And I'm telling you, the true front that we are being that we are showing the rest of this country as to how Louisianians handle a crisis. I think we're seeing our best selves even in the midst of this. Jay, and listen, thank you so much for being on with me.
I think you're right, CL. Thanks. Nice to be with you today.
Yes, sir. Bye now. Jay Darden, Commissioner of Administration for the Governor of Louisiana, John Bel Edwards. And let me tell you something, folks. Yes, we have all of our, various differences and so forth as far as politics and so forth in our state, and we will always have that. But I truly think that the way Louisiana is showing ourselves to the rest of the nation, it is a model of how this should be shown and how this type of situation should be dealt with and talked about. There are some things that really do transcend all of the other things, for the moment anyway. And this is one of those times when we see that happen, when we see it transcend. Oh, we'll go back to the budget discussions, we'll go back to taxation, and we'll go back to all of that. But you know what? If we're not safe in our homes, if we see that the violence against the guardians of the city causes them to begin to diminish in their capacity or their desire to protect the city, then, folks, you sleeping comfortably in your beds at night your children sleeping in their beds at night comfortably, while those who guard the city see the underbelly of society. If, in fact, we do not arrest that element in the society that would threaten them and threaten you by threatening them, we will see anarchy in our nation. And you can believe this or not, there are people who want that to happen. This is no time to hide and watch. This is a time for every decent citizen of the city to take a stand and say, we back the blue. That is what every decent citizen, if you had thought about being a decent citizen, now's the time to stand and say, we back the blue. Because, as you have heard me say here many a time, the alternative is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Hey, let me tell you, the alternative is not acceptable. I'm CO. We'll be back with Jerry Bernstein when we return.
When you wake up in the morning and the light has hurt your head, the first thing you do when you get up out of bed is hit that streets a running and try to beat the masses. Go get yourself some cheap sunglasses.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL back with you, your native son here in the Arklatex. Want to welcome all of our friends aboard throughout the Gulf Coast of America and our friends in northern and southern Arkansas and East Texas and all across the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. That's America. And I want to thank you for being there. And right now, joining us on the line is someone who's been on the show before and someone who I have great respect for. And I hope that he's able to bring some clarity to what's going on there in Cleveland. And I want to ask him about our presence in the world. That would be Gary Berntsen, who is a decorated former Central Intelligence agent, career officer, served in the decorated and was decorated served the Directorate of Operations between October 1982 and 2005. And Gary, now that I've sufficiently messed that up really bad, I want to welcome you back to the show.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm glad you're here. Now, you're in Cleveland, is that right?
Yes, I am at the convention.
Fantastic. Now, I saw before going on the air that there was kind of a ruckus there on the floor. Is it time for everybody to settle down, accept the fact that Donald Trump is going to be our nominee, and let's get on with the business of saving the country? What do you say to that?
Well, I think that there have been those that were in what they call a very small local minority called the Never Trump movement. They're done. Look, the 99.9% of the people who are here to support Donald Trump, to make him the president of the United States. We want to take our country back. We want to fix the economy. We want to reestablish our standing in the world and provide a level of stability that is woefully lacking.
And even though I'm not there in Cleveland, I was in Tampa during the Romney convention, and it was an armed camp. Are we seeing the same type of thing there in Cleveland?
Yeah, I think the city has probably spent $50 million on security, and they put up barriers and walls and block things, and they've got thousands. I think they have an additional 3,000 or 4,000 police officers from around the country have been brought here and have been sworn in as Cleveland, police, and are here providing security. And I think people are enjoying themselves. They feel safe, and I think the city of Cleveland's doing a great job.
Let's talk about America haters for a minute. You have been charged over your lifetime in so many circumstances to protect and defend our nation. A lot of people don't realize that right now, even in the country, and some of them are homegrown, we have people who are cropping up, who hate this nation. Could you lend your viewpoint on how real that homegrown threat is?
We have a significant problem in the United States, a small minority of individuals who have been use violence against our police. We've seen terror attacks, around the world, but in the United States, we're witnessing a spate of attacks on law enforcement. The very brave law enforcement people who provide that line between, the civilized world and anarchy. You have the group Black Lives Matter, which is, inciting people toward violence, and then trying to say after there's an attack, we had nothing to do with that. And then you see the individuals who are the perpetrators, and it's not a big guess where, who incited them and where they came from.
Right.
And they're killing African American officers as well as white officers.
Right. It's an attack on the police, on authority is what that attack is. Let me ask you this. Speak to this. We have seen in these last two shootings, that one in Dallas and then this one, that both of these last two shooters had military training. This is a particular concern, is it not?
It is a concern because, some of them, have learned to shoot, move, and communicate. They picked up skills. They're comfortable with weaponry. But as we saw in Nice, France, you don't need guns to kill people. Gun control is not the answer. These people could use trucks. They'll use gasoline. They'll run. They'll blow up dams. They'll do whatever they can to cause destruction. Our law enforcement authorities and our intelligence people have got to be empowered to be able to cover these people. You've got the President of the United States that doesn't want us covering mosques. If there are certain mosques which have been breeding grounds for extremists, we've got to have the FBI and others, run human sources into them. It's that simple. To not do that is to not fulfill our obligations to provide safety for the population.
In your opinion, does the president not understand that, or does he not really want to engage in that? What is that?
Exactly. He has a different agenda. He wants an America that is multicultural, multi-ethnic. He doesn't believe that this is a Judeo-Christian-based nation. He wants to change that. And, those who founded this country founded it on the Judeo-Christian basis. We welcome others as long as there's a separation between church and state. But as Newt Gingrich made the statement the other day, Sharia law is not compatible with the Constitution of the United States.
No, and it's not. And most people in this country have no idea, Gary, what you're talking about when we talk about Sharia law and those who have allegiance to that. That in their mindset, and correct me if I'm wrong, their Sharia beliefs trumps the constitutional beliefs of the nation. Is that right?
Yes, it does. And part of the problem with this is that in the Islamic system, the church and the state are married together. It's an anathema to our Constitution. They reject the principles of a separation of church and state. Their goal is to participate in the process here long enough to convert us. We're not going to be converted.
No.
We're not. And that means that they can't convert into our country. They want to convert municipalities, cities, states, etc. We can't allow that. This country is founded on beliefs that are enshrined in our Constitution. We have to hold to those beliefs. And if we do not hold to those beliefs, we will be destroyed as a people.
And I want to, when I come back, ask Gary Bernstein, former Central Intelligence agent and, of course, a career officer for the CIA, to tell us what it means to us when American presence is not preeminent in places, hotbeds where CIA operatives have normally operated. I want him to give us the ramifications of that, and also how we have been pulled back by this particular administration. And also, Gary, I want you to think about telling us, how do you project Donald Trump will be different than President Obama? I'm CL. I want to thank Holmes Honda European, Bailey's Fine Jewelers, Tiger Axle, Milam Cars, DavTac Custom Arms and Ammo, Signature Cleaning, Subway, and Chevyland for sponsoring this segment of the C.L. Bryant Show. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with Gary Bernstein, our guest in this segment. He was also awarded the Distinguished Intelligence Medal in 2000 and the Intelligence Star in 2004. Don't go anywhere.
Well, hello there. It's been a long, long time.
CL. Back with you on this Monday here in the Jewel Cities of the Arklatex, broadcasting from the greatest nation on earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, America. And on the line with us is one of our finest, Gary Bernstein, former CIA Director of Operations, and also highly decorated, receiving the Distinguished Intelligence Medal in 2000 and the Intelligence Star in 2004. Gary, before you share with us the ramifications of our presence in other parts of the world and gathering intelligence in other parts of the world, or the lack thereof, give us your take on why we're not hearing a peep about Benghazi or the emails here. I haven't heard anything in almost 9 days now about Benghazi or the emails. What's going on?
The majority of the media in the United States supports the left and supports Mrs. Clinton. And, you could have her on a video store, you could have her on a video cam or robbing a convenience store. They explaining something away. I mean, the reality is when you saw Jim Comey go on national television and make the argument for first 8 minutes of all the violations of the law and spend the last 2 minutes saying how he wasn't going to prosecute her, I think you probably could have knocked over half the country with a feather.
That's a fact.
Stunned.
That is a fact. I was dumbfounded.
Jim Comey used to be the most respected man in America. He used to be.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said that.
It's just tragic, and it's the fact is that when you saw the failure to prosecute. Look, John Deutsch, the head of the CIA, hooked his computer onto the internet, did things he shouldn't have. He was prosecuted. They pled it down, but they went after him. David Petraeus, they went after him. Who was the director of CIA, but Hillary Clinton, no one's going to prosecute her. There's
Wow.
33,000 emails. We all know the story here.
Right.
There are two sets of justice in America, one for the Clintons and one for the rest of us. But the biggest problem that Mrs. Clinton has is that she had a foundation in Canada, received over 1,000 separate donations, many of them for millions of dollars from rogue regimes around the world who treat people in a despicable fashion. They repackaged that money and then donated to the Clinton administration, Clinton Global Initiative, which 90% of it goes for administrative costs. Listen, there hasn't been a woman over 60 since Ma Barker had as little concern for the law. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, the only difference, had Ma Barker lived in this generation, she'd have taken care of those 4 troublesome boys of hers that got her in trouble and got her, shot up. But, with a women's right to choose, that had gotten rid of those 4. And she it's like, and she would have created a foundation instead of robbing banks.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. But the Clintons never cease to amaze me. And the fact is that their supporters don't care a lick about the law or the Constitution. It's about a particular agenda, political agenda for the country. And it's tragic. It is sad for the country.
And if she is elected, please address this. If she is elected, we will see a greater diminishing of American.
Without a doubt.
So this would be a third term of Obama, only on steroids.
Well, no, she's mentioned that. She said that she's a great supporter and admirer of President Obama. No one else in the world admires what he's done. We've had the lowest economic growth in the United States, below 2% since World War II with President Obama. African Americans have lost $4,000 in income each year. Per year because of President Obama. The Middle East is in flames. We have genocide taking place across Iraq and Syria. He has lost control of the world. And this last 2-month period and all the violence, the terrorist attacks, the killings, this is all at his feet. The president has been pandering to Black Lives Matter. The same with the Attorney General. After they kill a couple of these police officers, these brave people in Dallas, the Attorney General comes out and actually says out loud, "We value your voices."
Right.
To these people that have been inspiring this violence. I mean, it is just despicable. And so I think that I have to tell you, Donald Trump is going to win this national election in a landslide.
I hope you're right. I certainly hope you're right.
Americans are just so disgusted. And the truth is had Hillary Clinton been indicted and forced to step down, Joe Biden would have been more difficult a candidate to defeat. And the reason is he's generally an honest person. He hasn't amassed millions of dollars. We may not agree with him on policy, and I disagree with the things he's done with Obama, but he's not a crook.
Yeah.
He's not a crook, a thief, and a
Yeah.
total liar. He would have been more difficult to beat. So Jim Comey may have done a favor
Wow.
to the right in this one. But the reality is if law doesn't work for everybody, it won't work, and people will lose faith in it. And so the FBI and the Department of Justice disgraced themselves.
Yeah.
With the findings on Hillary Clinton.
You could hear his integrity being flushed down the toilet.
I felt sorry for him.
I really did too. Let me ask you this, Gary. Let me ask you this. Now, as far as intelligence gathering, has this president, to what extent, I should ask, has this president scaled back our ability to gather that intelligence? Has he put regulations on that harm us?
And he's relied more on technical, and he has shut off the monitoring of Islamic targets in the United States. He's handcuffed the Bureau and local security forces here and made us more vulnerable. And then the worst thing he has done, he has encouraged a domestic organization who is proposing violence and separation. Look, I read an article the other day, and I'm sure if it was the new Black Panthers, where they said that they wanted multiple states to separate from the United States, but then no one covers that. I see things from groups, but it's so selective in the media because, the president and his supporters, want this to be a good news story. I mean, it's just their view of the future of America is different than those of us that are supporters of the Constitution and who are proud of what this country has done in the world. America is the great hope for the world and has been the great hope for the world. And we've defeated enemies and turned them into democracies. We provided more aid, more help. America has been the great shining city on a hill, but these people have tarnished it. They have diminished us, and the world is in chaos because of that.
Gary, I want to bring you back after the convention. And I want to do a postmortem on after Trump's nominated. I want to see where do we go, how do we go forward. I certainly hope we come out unified. And listen, as always, time always goes by so fast when I'm talking to you. But I want to thank you for being on and put it on your calendar. I want to bring you back a week from today.
All right. Sounds great.
Listen, God bless and keep you fight the good fight.
God bless.
Gary Bernstein, former CIA operative for our great nation. And he's telling. Listen, folks. I don't care where you're falling down on this. As I said earlier, as far as Trump is concerned, he's going to be the nominee. The alternative is Hillary Clinton. You make the call. That used to be something that came on the football thing there, Jay. But you make the call. You make the call. It's got to be yours. Let's come out of this thing unified. I'm CL. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. CL back with you, and thank you so much for listening. We'll take your calls, 320-5335, 320-5335 in the 318 area code, 318-320-5335. Could history be repeating itself? Very well could be. The very same scenarios are facing us right now as they were in 1968 and in 1980. 1968, you had civil unrest in the streets. It swept, of course, Richard Nixon was trying to win the office of presidency at that point in time, and things were just absolutely haywire. You had hippies and yippies running around in this country, and I got to tell you, it was a time of unrest. They were even talking about they were going to put LSD in the water supply in Chicago. It was crazy. And then along comes Reagan in the 80s, and guess what? It was amazing because when Reagan came along, Margaret Thatcher was just becoming prime minister of England, and now Margaret Thatcher is gone, but there is another woman, Theresa May, who has become the new prime minister of the UK. And Iran is still on the table, the same way it was with Jimmy Carter. And there is unrest in the Middle East, the same way it was when Jimmy Carter was president. And in comes Reagan. And America, in my estimation, became great again. Maybe not in the estimation of the next guest on the phone, next caller on the phone. That is Stephen, Socialist Stephen. Stephen, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. And thank you for chiming in. What's on your mind, friend?
First things on my mind, my heart goes out to the families of the police officers in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely.
Just an absolute terrible.
Absolutely.
Terrible.
Absolutely. It really was, man. I do say this. I'm very proud of how our people in office are handling this particular crisis, including the governor. And, I've had my differences with the governor and everybody like that. But our police officers, our police force is handling themselves. I think they're a real example to the rest of the country. Louisiana right now, Stephen, and you and I are both Louisiana boys, proud of our homeland. I think we are very proud of how we're representing ourselves. What did you say about it?
I'm proud of my state. That's why I came back home.
Yeah.
But I got to take issue with UCL.
Yeah, go ahead. You always do.
One little thing. Look, just because we got different viewpoints and we see the world different and America different and what we need to be in the future doesn't mean I hate my country.
Oh no, I wouldn't dare think that. I wouldn't dare think that. But there are some America haters in this group of. I wouldn't think that about you, Stephen. I just know that you and I have differences of opinion on core, maybe not even core value issues, but the way we approach things. But no, I would never think that somebody. But I'm telling you, man, I will tell you this. There are some people, and I ain't calling no names, that you want to defend that I have to question whether or not they love this country.
Because I got to ask you an important question.
Go ahead.
Last year, I've been for a year and wanted to ask you this. You remember last year a guy got killed in Alexandria?
Yes.
And by the police?
Yes.
In a truck with his, I think, 5 or 6-year-old son?
I do remember it.
And that was a terrible situation, too, but what struck me the funniest. Do you remember how long it took them to arrest him and charge him with murder and put $1 million bond on his head?
It was a while.
It was 4 hours.
Oh, you mean the white fellow?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. I get your point.
Okay, you get my point?
I got your point.
There was no video, okay? And the 2 officers were brown, okay? Took 4 hours, CL. See, we see the world differently. I don't forget. What I'm about is justice in this country for everybody.
Well, was not justice served?
Justice served.
But justice was served in that situation, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Why so swiftly, CL?
Well, justice will be served in the same amount of time. Determining what the facts are sometimes take a different time.
So is talking about the history. I heard you talking about the history of I can't remember, Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't talked about the history of the police officers.
Well, Stephen, listen, the people that we charge to put out on the street to protect us go through, it takes about 6 months to hire a cop.
Well, why won't you talk about these particular fellas?
Well, we don't know. We haven't dug into that as far as that's concerned. We don't know as far as that's concerned.
How I know their history and their families and their history on the police force. How I know this?
How do you know? How do you know?
2 minutes.
It's been in the newspapers in other states in this country. My sister.
But now keep in mind now you are talking about a newspaper. But this is what has to happen. There has to be an internal investigation into that.
You know who their fathers are?
What is that?
One's a commander in the Baton Rouge Police Department. Has a mother that's retired from that police department.
Stephen, listen, Stephen. Okay, if that is in fact playing into any of this, then that will in fact come to light because this is in the glaring daylight here now.
The truth I talk about, CL, and I think about when I make decisions. Sometimes,
yeah.
There's a truth here.
I am going to do this. I'm always going to do this. And I think I think Americans have to do this because these are people who do, in fact, as I call them, the guardians of our city. And if, in fact, we lose trust and faith in the guardians of our city because of a 1%er or a 1/2 of a 1%er, then truly our society will break down. I know that there's a lot of things that go on in all these 1% type cases, but Stephen, I know cops all around this nation, and they do not fit into that little box that you're trying to put them in. Listen, man, always good talking to you.
All right.
I'll be back. I'm CL. Don't go anywhere.
Valhalla, I am coming.
All right. So you do have people who always want to blame America first, want to blame the defenders of America first, want to blame the guardians of the city first, which means they'll blame you first as well. 320-5335, 318-3205-335. I will take your phone calls here in these next couple of blocks. Coming up in the show will be Martha Bonetta here and after the top of the hour. But let me say this to you while we're just talking here. You need to understand something. When the founders, and in fact the writer of the Declaration of Independence, placed in there that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, he was saying,
Billy, it's a woman.
That he was saying that the Creator is the Lord of our conscience, which means that we have been given the ability to think about where we will go, what we will say, and what we will do. There are people who would like to take away and govern that precious ability that each and every one of us are endowed with by our Creator. On the line with me now is Billy. Billy, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to make a few comments about Mr. Darden's comments that he made. And one of them that really kind of infuriated me was the fact that these people they arrested down there for blocking the highways and stuff, they have chose to drop the charges against them. I mean, then you wonder why our police officers, feel the way they do. These people broke the law. They sent the police officers out there to maintain the peace. They arrested the ones that broke the law, and then they turn around and drop the charges.
And you're going to see that, Billy. You're going to see that happen here until we get a switch, a change in the Attorney General's office and in the presidency.
Well, I don't care if these people are white, black, purple, people eaters, yellow, orange, whatever. If they broke the law and were charged, they should have to go to court. They could have caused many lives by blocking that highway and blocking emergency vehicles.
And they're doing it all around the country.
I know. I mean, I am just furious.
Yeah, that has happened all around the country. Even those who did it in Dallas.
You're right.
They let them go. There was no arrest. And this is something you may or may not know. Down in Baton Rouge, 50 people were arrested last week after this particular shooting. Only 7 of them that were arrested were from Louisiana. You have people coming in to this state, into our state, and they are causing all types of havoc, and they're being able to leave this state without meeting any type of justice from this state.
Exactly, I agree. What these people, if they want a peaceful protest, go to the steps of the Capitol, go to the governor's mansion, but don't block our highways that puts everybody else's lives in danger.
I'm going to have Darden back on. Today, it was one of those kumbaya kind of moments that I had with him, and because of the deaths yesterday, I didn't want to just turn that apple cart over. But that is, your point is well taken. And those are questions that we as Louisianians must ask, because if they don't respect our police officers as far as giving them the authority to keep the peace, then who is going to do that if we don't administrate that? Billy, that's a great call.
Oh, thank you very much for listening to me. But I mean, I was about to bust. I was so mad.
Great call, and I certainly thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
She's right. She's absolutely right. Where do we make certain that those who call themselves acting out as far as civil disobedience is concerned, where do they cross the line? And if they break the law and if they are arrested, then should there not be a prosecution? Because if there's not a prosecution, then what message are we sending behind that? That's a very good call. I'm going to have not only Jay back, but I'll also have our Attorney General, Jeff Landry. That's who I want to talk to about what you brought up, Billy. I want to talk to Jeff Landry about how come. I want to talk to him how come we're not prosecuting some of these people who have crossed the line. I mean, is it just because we want to do a little kumbaya or what? Because Billy's point is very well taken. Now, back to my point about the Creator. About, we're endowed. There is an attack on our conscience. That's the one thing that the founders wanted to remain free forever and all times in America. Didn't want any government entity to take away our freedom of conscience. And that is what to think. That is what to say. Where you go, your freedom of movement. And that's what gives us liberty. That's what gives us the quality of life that we have in America. That's what gives us the ability to pursue happiness, is because we have freedom of conscience to follow that conscience in what we think, what we say, and how we move in this land. That's why you don't have to, when you cross over into Mississippi or Texas or up in Arkansas here in this Ark-la-Tex area, you don't have to present any papers because you're going into another state. You don't necessarily go into another state of mind. You're just crossing over a border in the same country, in the same land, with the same ideals. Not the same in places like Europe where But anyway, 320-5335, 320-5335 will be the number to call when we return. I'm CL. Don't go anywhere.
We don't have no plastic LA friends. Ain't on the edge of no popular trend. Ain't never seen
CL. Monday, the jewel cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier broadcasting throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story. Yes, the world has ever known. That would be America. And as far as I'm concerned, you can love it or leave it. You can get out of here because we got to set things straight. And all you America haters, go somewhere else, as far as I'm concerned. On the line with me now is Mike. Mike, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, I was just wondering about this Black Lives Matter. Well, I know for a fact it's taken $33 million from George Soros, who isn't an American citizen to begin with. They're a Marxist front, and their design is to split apart this country and bring it to its knees. And, we have a district attorney here in Shreveport that took money from George Soros to run his campaign on. And I think the House on Un-American Activities ought to investigate Black Lives Matter. And if they do find them to be treasonous in that way, then I think this district attorney we got ought to be disbarred. He ought to have to relinquish his office. And I think he should be tried for treason.
And, there is a growing sentiment about the social engineering that is going on in this country, Mike. And let me tell you something. On our college campuses, that and also in the public school systems.
Nothing but Marxist professors.
Programming your young people in the public school. They're sending home a programmed kid from the public school back to your house. And guess what? You don't even know what they may have talked to them about. Because when the kid comes in, Mike, you ask him, how was your day? And they always, okay, go do your homework and go play, whatever. And you don't ask them what did they talk to you about.
You're absolutely right. If I was paying $30,000 a semester, I'd want to know what these professors were teaching my kid. If they were teaching stuff like that, I'd go up there and I'd be in their eye like an onion.
More parents need to be that way. That's how we've gotten here. I say this all the time, Mike, on this show. All the things they're trying to pull off, like the bathroom things with the transgenders and all that type of stuff, that stuff didn't just happen overnight. They had to program the kids to accept that. They know you and I are not going to accept it, but they know that our kids, if they can program them to accept it, they'll look at us like we're crazy.
George Soros and his group is trying to tear down our Judeo-Christian principles. That's their aim.
That has been his aim. It also was the aim of Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky had 3 different planks in the takeover of a community. 1, create confusion or chaos. 2, that creates fear. And 3, that creates retreat. And that's exactly what we're seeing, Mike. We're seeing confusion on the streets of our country. We're seeing fear in the minds and hearts of too many Americans. And we're seeing retreat because people are backing up and saying, hey, what are we going to do? Hey.
Let me make one other statement, CL. And by the way, you're doing a wonderful job, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike.
And you know who coined the term racist?
Who?
Leon Trotsky. During the Bolshevik Revolution.
Yeah.
And he did that to divide the country. And that's how the Bolsheviks, or the Red Army, was able to win the Bolshevik Revolution.
Well, you have the head Bolshevik in this country running for president. And Mike, what do you think about this? Have you heard anything about Benghazi or those emails or lying Hillary Clinton in the last 9 days? Not a peep. I haven't heard a peep. Have you?
And the attorney, the head of the FBI, laid out a perfect plan, a perfect prosecution plan to prosecute her, and now our government won't follow through on it.
Not a peep, Mike. They're not gonna follow through. And it's going to be interesting. I certainly hope that the Republican convention doesn't blow itself up there in Cleveland being foolish.
Well, I hope they don't either. And one other statement, I'm going to make this. If you trust your country, just ask an Indian.
That's a whole different conversation. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for calling. Yeah, folks. Trump said it the other day. No, Trump said it today. No, it was yesterday. He said it yesterday. He says there's something going on. He said just that. He said there's something going on, and he also said these words. And I want you to hear these words because, believe it or not, I think he does lend a lot of thought to things that maybe we don't think about. He may not be the most articulate guy in the world. Maybe he's not the most articulate guy in the world, but he did say this. Trump said America is a divided crime scene. Oh, that you may not think that's deep, but that's deep. Trump said America is a divided crime scene. And there are people on both sides of the crime that's being committed in America right now. There are people who are on the crime on this side of the crime that Hillary Clinton has committed against this country. There's people who are on this side of the crime where the lie that spawned the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson was the hands up don't shoot. He was never in a hands up don't shoot position, folks. That it's a lie. It was a lie. That the crime scene, America is a divided crime scene, and then there's people on the other side who say, "Hey, that wasn't true. This is all crazy. How come we hadn't heard about this Hillary Clinton thing in the last 9 days?" A divided crime scene. When we talk about police support and lack of police support, you have those who are on the police side. You have those who are not. Trump said that. America is a divided crime scene. And folks, I got to tell you, there is a crime in progress because truly there is an assault against the fabric and fiber of our nation right now. And either you are somebody who is going to stand up and recognize it and do something about putting it down, or you are a co-conspirator in it. Those are the choices. Because I think Trump's right. We're a divided crime scene. I'm CL. Be back with Martha Bonetta when I return.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL back with you on this Monday here in the Jewel Cities of the Arkansas. Let me tell you, the Republican National Convention is going on in Cleveland. From all accounts, I talked with Gary Bernstein just a little bit ago, and if you were listening to the show at that point in time, you'll tell you that it was an armed camp there in and around the perimeter of the entrance, the convention itself. They were trying to get Governor Kasich to enforce or to lift or to put a restriction on the people who have open carry rights there. And folks, I'm torn about that. I really am. I'm torn about that. I just am never comfortable when you make a blanket opportunity for government in any way to restrict the right of a citizen for whatever reason it is. I think that maybe bring in the guard, whatever. I don't, whatever is necessary. But the person who has gained the right to wear his or her gun openly, I do believe that right should not be infringed on. Now, if you have someone coming in from somewhere else, and of course it's difficult to determine who's who in that type of situation, but I do believe there can be caveats that can be made. For instance, those who are lawfully carrying and are residents of Cleveland or the state of Ohio, there can be, in fact, some identifying factor. Because keep in mind, a lot of the problem is coming from out of state. The problem is not coming from people in state. The problem is coming from out of state. And so I think maybe there's some way you can gauge who's who in that fashion. 320-5335, 318-320-5335 is the number to call if, in fact, you want to talk. Now, let me say this. When we talk about the infringement upon those rights, I think we have to be very, very careful when we start down that slippery slope. Joining me now is Martha Bonetta, who is an attorney in her own right, a television show host in her own right, and, of course, she is hosting a show there at the convention in Cleveland, the John Fredericks Show. And Martha, I want to welcome you for the first time to the C.L. Bryant Show. Thank you for being there.
Thank you so much. I'm actually, if you hear the noise in the background, it's because we're having this interview with me on the floor of the 2016 GOP convention in Cleveland.
Well, here. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time. We certainly welcome that noise that is there.
Yes, it's extraordinary. I mean, I don't know if you could hear the energy. You could probably hear and see on TV the energy that's here. It's explosive. People are excited. They're hopeful for the future. It's been an extraordinary experience being there.
I am glad to hear you say all of those adjectives describing what is going on there, because earlier we were thinking that maybe we might have a divided or a disjointed type of convention.
Yes.
Are we headed toward peace, in your opinion?
Well, I do know there was a floor fight. There was a floor fight that occurred. I guess originally 11 states had voted for a voice roll call, an actual roll call, and what had happened was it requires a minimum of nine states in order to even be able to vote on that. And what had happened was three of those original 11 states that had agreed and signed the petition ended up signing other petitions, removing themselves from those petitions. So it ended up getting there's a lot of drama here on the floor, but I'm pleased to report that it was resolved, and one way or the other, whether folks like the results or not, we've moved forward. We've moved past it. That issue is no longer exists. And I think that everybody here agrees that the right message is to get together and get beyond that and elect Donald Trump as our president, and to put behind us
the bitter feelings. Let me, when we return back, I want you to stay with me through the break. Can you do that, Martha? Because I want to ask you this. I want you to express to our audience why it is important for us to unite now, regardless of who your first or second choice may have been. But we need to unite at this point. We're going to hear from Martha Bonetta on that issue, on that particular point, when we return. This is the C.L. Bryant Show. Don't you go anywhere. Back with Martha Bonetta when I return. CL back with you, broadcasting from the greatest nation on the face of the earth throughout the fruited plains of the greatest success story the world has ever known. That is America. And one of our own is there on the floor of the convention, the Republican GOP convention, there in Cleveland, Ohio, watching the process take place, the process of democracy and the preservation of our republic take place. And her name is Martha Bonetta, who is a native of Paris, Virginia, and also television and radio host in her own right. And I want to thank you so much for being there for us. Now tonight, Melania Trump is going to speak. Is that right, Martha?
Yes, not only is she going to speak, but Donald Trump is going to introduce her in an unprecedented move that no other presidential nominee has ever done. He will be introducing Melania. She will speak on the stage, and then he will fly back to New York and return on Thursday to accept the nomination.
So you're going to get a chance to see the nominee before the time actually pops up. That sounds really, really good.
It's unprecedented. That has not been done before. So a lot of excitement here, a lot of adrenaline. It's been amazing. And, and I have to tell you something else, too. A lot of friends and family from all over Virginia and all over the nation have been texting on social media and sending me their prayers and their love and their concern about my safety here while I'm in Cleveland, because they've heard and seen, threats and so forth. I can tell you, I think I'm probably in the safest place on earth. The amount of security that is here is like nothing I've ever seen before.
I believe you are absolutely right. I didn't make it to this one, but I was in Tampa with Mitt Romney, and it was an armed camp. There's no question about it. And I imagine Cleveland is even more so of an armed camp than even Tampa was. Let me ask you this. I need you to tell our audience why it is important for conservatives and Republicans to get behind this candidate at this point in time, regardless of what their political choice may have been before Trump became the nominee. Speak to that.
The very soul and heart of America is at stake. I mean that sincerely. We are in a critical time in our nation. Over 80% of Americans are concerned about the future of our country, and this moment in time right now, who we elect as our president will forever determine the fate of our nation. Who's on our Supreme Court, the type of defense we have for our nation, the prosperity of our country, keeping the American dream alive and well. These things are an issue, and that is why, regardless of whomever the candidate of choice was prior to now, it is critical that they get behind Donald Trump and do everything they can to make sure that he is our president of the United States.
Martha, this time next year, if we fail to do the right thing now, we do face, in your estimation, very critical consequences to making a bad choice. Would you say so?
Oh, absolutely. We are no longer, we are losing our competition in the world. We are, in terms of our defense of our nation, it has been sacrificed. We need strong defense of our nation. We need to protect our borders. We need to make sure that the future of our nation and the future of our children and our grandchildren is as good as we have it or better. And I'm telling you that I grew up in a family where my parents taught us if you work very hard, you can be anything you want in life. And yet, we're seeing that the government has come in and taken it upon themselves to take away some of our most fundamental rights, to make it very difficult to be an entrepreneur, to make it very difficult to prosper. And our president, if it's not Donald Trump, we should all be very, very concerned about the future of our nation.
Are you telling us that the ability to pursue life, liberty, and our personal happiness can, in fact, go away? It is a fragile thing. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's a precious jewel. Freedom is a precious jewel that we have to fight for and protect with everything we are. We have to treasure it and hold it dearly and protect it and shelter it, because there are those in the world that want to take away our freedom. They want to take away our liberty, and they want to take away our beautiful America that we all love and treasure, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Martha, I want to ask you one more question while I got you. Now, Jane and I, my wife, we try to eat as well as we can, and I see that you're an organic farmer.
Yes, yes.
Is organic really better for you?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not against. Of course, I am an organic producer, but I am not against. I think it's a matter of choice. People should be able to have access to the types of food that they want to enjoy. However, I do. I do believe that people should have the access to the type of food they want to have and to enjoy the type of food they want to have. And we're local organic producers, and that's something that we feel very, very strongly about. People having access to locally produced food.
I really admire farmers. I come from a long line of them. Jane and I like to farm. We have a little patch of ground ourselves. And but listen, I want to thank you for being on with us.
Absolutely.
Be safe there. God bless and God keep you. And we'll talk.
Your show, I really appreciate it. And everybody can listen to me Monday through Friday this week from 9 to 9:30. I'll be reporting live. I'm co-hosting the John Frederick Show, and I'm looking forward to having everybody call in.
Give us that one more time.
It's the John Frederick Show. I'm reporting from the convention Monday through Friday, 9 to 9:30.
Fantastic. Martha Bonet on the John Frederick Show. Thank you so much, Martha.
Thanks for having me on your show.
You betcha. Bye now.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
We're going to be back to wrap it up in just a minute.
Just long enough to grab a handle off the top. Next stop, Chi-Town, Leo, put the money down, let 'em roll. You say one more job ought to get.
CL, back on this great Louisiana day, and it is one, even though we stand in the midst of tragedy. We have waded through it, and we've represented ourselves well. We will come out of this better, stronger, and wiser, I certainly hope. I want to thank Barksdale Federal Credit Union, Josie Wright, Century 21 Elite, Bossier Magazine, SS Truck, Brown Dodge, Red Wing Shoes, Mercatech, Dale's Paving, Rimmer Electric. Go see my friend Adam Rimmer. He brings the light. Any of your commercial electrical needs, Adam Rimmer can handle it for you. Also, it's hot out there. Reggie Bear, Air Innovations. Whatever your cooling needs are, whatever your heating needs are going to be, Air Innovations, Reggie Bear can take care of it for you and soothe your hunger in any way you need. Grub Burger, if you're hungry right now, stop on through there and get you a Grub Burger. Bretches Insurance and our friends at Yoakum Toyota. See Jared Hamilton there at Yoakum Toyota. Folks, yes, there is an attack on the conscious state of Americans, the consciousness of Americans. One of the reasons we fight so hard, and this is one of those situations where I have very little tolerance, even though I do want to have conversation with people of opposing views, but it seems that in the makeup of the way our country is right now at this moment in time, a week from now it might be different, and we might need to expand the conversation a little bit. But at this point in time, especially with the Democratic National Convention coming up, they're going to have the closing words in convention season. I cannot stress enough how important it is for us to get past whatever differences we had, because you've heard the guest today. What's at stake? What is at stake is, in fact, no kidding, no fooling. No, this is no joke. What's at stake is this time next year. Only God knows. And I want to thank him for bringing us to the close of yet another day, and I want to thank him for our men and women in uniform around the globe, wherever they are, who defend our right to speak our mind. And until I'm able to talk to you again, y'all be safe out there. And may God bless and keep you all.
And to the families left behind, we'll stand by your side. And the bond